The NSA just called me. We have a problem in East Timor.
What kind of problem?
A big one.
Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow hard difficulty walkthrough. We're still in the Kudang Refinery in good old Indonesia. This is part 2 of it. This is where it gets a little bit more technical, but it's still pretty manageable stuff, this, as I sit under the graceful shade of this lovely looking tree thing. These crazy reeds or whatever it is. This is one of those rooms where it looks incredibly intimidating because there's a ton of guys. We have to follow Sedano, and there's a ton of light, and it's like, how the hell do we get across this courtyard? And then you see this pipe, this piece of bamboo, and then you realise the level design is immaculate for stuff like that. Like, that was very, very imposing looking courtyard, and all I did was go around the outside, climb up something, and it made it all completely trivial. And that's what I love about Splinter Cell. And Chaos Theory really refines some of the moments of just sheer enjoyment of finding that one god path. Just that top tier route that gets you through it, and you're just like, if I didn't have this, what would I do, kind of thing. And to go one step even further, if a game has more than one great path, then you're just like, we're spoiled here. This is what all games should have. But once you get up to the top, fire a sticky camera down here, and then listen to this conversation with Sedano. If you don't do this quick enough, you will instantly fail and Lambert will chastise you. And the conversation with Sedano here is actually quite long, but I have trimmed a little bit of it out, just so that you don't have to sit here with me watching a dull screen, and we can get back to gameplay. So now we're back in control. One thing I've noticed as well, the transition to Chaos Theory, the lighting is really realistic and really great on that game, but it's had an effect on the visuals of it. So when I was playing, all I could notice was, you know, God, this looks really, really good. But when I've looked back at the recordings, it looks really dark. And I can do some things with colour correction and changing brightness to try and make it look better. But for a lot of those really dark periods, I'm moving into the light, and a lot of these games are about the shadows and then the light and that, so I think it kind of works. But I guess we'll see when I'm commentating those videos, just to how, if it'll be hard for people to see what I'm doing, then it'll affect the walkthrough. But I'm hoping there's going to be a nice, you know, a nice juxtaposition of enough elements that it kind of makes it work. Because you can still see what's happening, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to see things in the distance, because of course the lighting's more realistic, and the awareness and the, you know, the visual perception is a little bit more difficult.
Got a heads up for you from Grim.
We're going to be losing touch in a second.
But now that we're down here, that's one of those shit your pants moments, and then you realise that this game it's pretty stellar. That on Chaos Theory I would have been shot. That would not have worked, because when they get that close to you on that game, they see you. And I don't really like that. There's something really empowering about the way these first two games work. I really like the system of it. I think it makes sense, especially once you've been playing them back to back like I have. Another thing that's worth mentioning is the move you just saw me do there, where I pull my gun out to drop bodies quicker. That is not a good thing to do on Chaos Theory. On Chaos Theory, that makes a noise now. So you drop the body quick, but it makes a big noise, and somebody comes and has a look. So that they change how you have to play. Also, they change the controls of what opens your menu and what gets your gun out, which was kind of awkward for the longest time. This right here is one of the things that's universal in the series. If you drop onto somebody off of a height, you will knock them out. It works on pretty much every single game, and it's a really effective tool at doing doing some rooms in some pretty cool ways. But there he goes in the corner, and then we can continue onwards. Another thing as well that Chaos Theory introduces is a sound meter, which I think is really, really good. However, it shows just how much of a bitch you have to be to get through almost every section of the game, which it's kind of funny when you see a meter that has about 100 different marks on it, but if you even go up one, you're going to get heard. So 99 of those marks are completely redundant on Expert, which I thought was beautiful. But this is your is it a cocaine clinic, your meth lab? Well, it's not a meth lab. I would assume cocaine or heroin, something like that, some kind of narcotic. Maybe it's just You know, sugar. Maybe it's flour. Maybe they're nice people doing nice things, but it doesn't look like it's probably that. Then again, it might be something to go in an explosive, and it's part of the storyline that I wasn't paying attention to because I was too busy trying to hug shadows and sneak my way through these buildings. This is a really interesting room, this. So there's a guy to our right, and then there's a guy to his right. There's a guy directly in front of us who is in fact a contact that we need to talk to. I could not make it in this room so that I could talk to that guy over in the corner without knocking out these people, because every single time they came in, they saw me, and it didn't go well. So I ended up having to knock lights out. I ended up having to do all kinds of jumping through hoops to get this to work, but it did work. Do you see him? He's another guy that kept coming in the room. It was one of those things where if I didn't take them out, I couldn't talk to him, and there's always the temptation when I play these games to, you know, not knock anybody out, but I really enjoy that aspect of it. Ooh, this is great too. Do you see how it told me what the code was on that? It doesn't do that on Chaos Theory. They changed it again, but they changed it to something worse. Instead of having it on the screen while you're on the console, it has it before you access the console. So if you're like me and you've got a really bad short-term memory, it makes you come out of that screen a lot of times to check what the numbers were. And that is a case of breaking something that you fixed. So I don't understand that choice at all. But a couple of guys talking on this corner. We're going to be moving into an area where there's a ton of automated guns, and you can tell that this is going to happen because on my left there's a stack of flares. Whenever the game gives you flares, it's so that you can trick the heat sensor, the heat detector that the guns have, and get past them without being hit. The good news is there's a really good path on this next area to get through these rooms, and it's going to be utilising another well-placed drain pipe, and we're going to be going in through the roof. So I pick up the flares just in case. Very useful tool. I have a look at the fellows over there. There's a turret, there's the two guys, and then to my left there's this little pool of illumination, and then there's this, which is kind of well hidden. You climb up here. Even though you're completely illuminated, you're not too bad. If this was Chaos Theory, they'd have probably seen me then. But once again, it isn't. This is Pandora Tomorrow. So, be very, very sneaky here. There's probably some kind of leniency on your movement sound because of all the gunfire, but the first time you assume that you have leniency, you don't. So be careful, regardless. And then when you drop down here, if you're crouched, you should land perfectly and make no sound. If you're grabbing and you want to drop, press triangle and circle at the same time and you'll do a silent drop. That works on all of the Splinter Cell games. The controls to do it might change through the series, but I can confirm in the first 3, it's the same. I haven't played Double Agent in ages, haven't played Conviction in ages too. Right, so there's a couple guys in this room. You can sneak through this area if you go onto the shooting range and you go across it in between the bursts of these guys shooting. But this is my pan. This is my pan. Pan? I have a pan? Where? This is my plan, sorry, to get through the room anyhow. And this is one of those moments where I had a lot of different results. And that's one of the things that I think the first 2 games handled a lot better than Chaos Theory. On this game, when I show you a strategy, there's maybe 1 to 2 deviations that can happen depending on just RNG bullshit of AI nonsense. On Chaos Theory, there's about 50, and it makes a lot of the strategies that involve any kind of enemy placement or any kind of enemy movement incredibly difficult to replicate sometimes, and it led me to do completely different strategies. Like, I'd get a super awesome, really, you know, tricky, fancy looking, almost of a mistake of a strategy where I'd accidentally made a noise somewhere, and then it'd change the positions of the people in the room, and it'd enable me to go through the room in a second, just like a bolt of lightning, and it looked amazing. And then I'd restart and I'd try it again, and the people would be in a different place, and then they wouldn't hear the noise I made, and other times they'd shoot at me when they didn't even see me, and like so many different variables. And it got to the point where I'd be like, I'm not even going to do that awesome looking strategy, and you're never going to see it because it's not viable. It doesn't work every time. But right there, I throw a flare so that that automated turret doesn't bother me, but it looks like it probably doesn't bother you anyway. I just didn't want to take any chances with it. And it doesn't look like there's that many guys here, and even if they are, they don't respond to the sound of your movement too well, because I believe it's grass, and grass is one of the best surfaces for making as little noise as possible when moving quickly. But there's a med pack, should you need it. I will not be getting any kind of med kits in any of my guides for the Splinter Cell series on the High Definition Collection, because there are trophies against that, and it's very easy to do. If you're taking damage on this game, you're probably going to die. You know, the only times where taking damage doesn't result in death is if you fall. Everything else, you're pretty much dead. They do not mess about. But this is a really cool room, this one. It's got a spotlight moving around, it's got a couple of guys patrolling, and it's got a couple of them overlooking from that crazy cabana looking place that we're coming up to just now. So right there, somebody heard or saw something, so he's going to come investigating, and I'm going to use this opportunity to sneak over here. Once I'm in this area, I'm going to climb up here. And I'm going to try and climb up here anyhow. Interesting, I'm trying to climb the pole instead of the porch. But you'll notice it got the guy off the porch away. And then somebody kind of sees me. There's a turret just over there, and I need to use this keypad. A really cool and interesting thing that Chaos Theory introduces is the ability to hack things at a distance. However, because I'm an old school Splinter Cell player, it's one of those things I never really did. So I'm the guy who takes the unnecessary risk to get close to the door because I'm so used to doing it in these games, and there's going to be a few instances in my Chaos Theory walkthrough where I'm going to put myself in bad positions because I completely forget I can just hack them from a distance. But in this room here is Sedano, and this is where a kind of tricky moment's going to happen. I recommend doing the swap turn here between cover. That way, like, he should see you. There's no reason why he shouldn't see you, but he doesn't. And if you try and sneak it, he will see you. But for some reason, when you do these fancy turning techniques, you must become invisible. There must be some kind of variable on Sam's character that makes him undetectable. And it's a pretty cool thing too. Another thing to note here, following down this corridor there are some electric shock traps that you can disarm, and I completely forgot about them, so I'm going to get multiply stunned at the end of this level. And it looks hilarious, but it wasn't intentional. I just didn't realise what the hell was happening. But we need to tap Sedano's phone. What he's going to do is he's going to walk around this room and then he's going to leave into the other room. I'm then going to use that opportunity to sneak into his room, hit his laptop, and get out of there. However, there's a camera in this room, and of course cameras can be tricky. So I'm going to take out this light, and I'm going to take out that light, and then I'm going to go as quick as I can, hit the computer, and get out. And Sedano returns to this room just as I'm about to exit it. So you'll notice I go over to the corner, I start walking a little bit tentatively, and he's coming back in. So you want to be really careful with this guy, because for some reason he has really good detection. I don't know why, but out of all the soldiers in this game, he's the person who probably saw me the most in that small sequence. He saw me twice.
What was this?
But that is the first shock.
Idea. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what just happened? Have I failed? And I move forward, and I get another shock.
They're ready to fire.
Or maybe it's on the next corridor. But if you put on your thermals, you should be able to see those traps. I was just like, what happened then? Because I could not remember this for the life of me. And there's another one coming up. Or is there not? Is there just one? I thought there was a few. Oh, there you go. There's only one. My bad. But before you exit... Oh, there it is. Sam gets premature ejaculation. And I'm like, this is weird. Something's going on here. But they're just traps I didn't see.
Fisher, freeze.
But
Don't make a move.
wait for it.
Take you out of there.
Wait for it. Oh, that lighting. You can literally see the squares in it. They all turn around. And then it's our turn to do some stuff. So I'm going to wait here just a little bit so that they can get into the brunt of the action. Then we're going to be sneaking towards where they're firing. And as is customary to every Splinter Cell player at this point, you should always be looking for alternative paths through every situation, because there's always going to be one that is safer than the other ones. And on this particular encounter, I knock him out, and then I sneak over to this one and knock him out, and I'm probably going to knock the third guy out as well. With a nice elbow clop. This is the last time you're going to see that elbow clop, for the most, because in Chaos Theory, they changed the mechanic. So it's a lot more dynamic, a lot more realistic, and a lot more enjoyable to do. But that is the end of Kudang. We're now going to be in Komodo, so I will see you there, folks. Thank you for watching. You take care now.